Own your career experience. A lot of professionals out there, they're too afraid to ask for pay rises or, God forbid, to apply for jobs elsewhere. Why? Because they don't feel worthy. They feel like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I don't have the right experience, they're gonna reject me, I'm gonna fail. How do you deal with this? Because often this is the number one reason why people don't get pay rises. This fear, this feeling of unworthiness. You deal with this by owning who you are and by owning the worth and experience that you have. Ask yourself, what form is the required experience in? It could be from a personal setting or something that you learned at school or an experience not per se in a job or in your career. Here's an example. So one of my friends, he applied for this position as a salesperson where experience with long-term relationship building was required. Now my friend felt that he didn't have that experience, so he didn't actually apply for that job. Whereas I saw him as an expert in building long-term relationships. First of all, because he created this mastermind that I'm part of. And every week he was following up like, hey, how are you going? Where are you at? He really took a proactive approach to building long-term relationships. Now, all he had to do was owning this experience. And when he went for the job interview and they asked like, okay, where's your experience in building long-term relationships with clients? All he had to do is give a couple of those examples. But he didn't, so he stopped applying. And of course, if you don't even try, you're not going to get it. Now, this may be the case if you apply for new jobs, but also if you ask for pay rises or promotions. How do you deal with this? How do you actually own your experience so you feel more confident and worthy of getting that pay rise? Here's what you have to ask yourself. Number one, what experience is required from this role or the next position, or the position that you are applying for, or the pay rise that you want to get? What experience is required? So in the case of my friend, it was experience with building long-term relationships with people. The second question you're going to ask yourself is, what form is your experience in? So in this case, in my friend's case, the form that it was in was in this mastermind that he built. And he was also crewing for a lot of seminars and he built a lot of relationships with people that way. So what form is your experience in? If it's not necessarily, in your job, like what other form is it in? And keep asking yourself that question until you can really feel it and feel confident that yes, I have it. Now, number three, how is the form of your experience a benefit to your employer if it wasn't in a career? So in his case, how was building a mastermind and creating a mastermind from the ground up, how was his experience of long-term relationship building a benefit to his company that way? Well, it's a mastermind, it's more informal. There were many different types of people. It's long-term, there's a track record. There's really a lot of benefits for him having that experience that way. Also, now he comes in the job fresh, and maybe not having that experience in the previous position allows him to be more open-minded and to really learn the basics from the ground up without having that baggage from the past. Now, the fourth question is this. Are you now certain that you have the required experience? If not, make sure that you repeat step 1, 2, and 3 until you feel confident and worthy of getting that promotion and getting that pay rise. Now, the key is don't lie and don't exaggerate. Especially when it comes to technical knowledge like, accounting standards. If you really don't have it, own up to it. And you can phrase it slightly differently. Like, for example, in my last position, I was applying for a new job and I didn't have the necessary software experience that was required. So during the interview, they asked me, do you have experience with HFM and TM1? and all of these other accounting systems. And I said, I don't have the experience, but I do know, QuickBooks and Quicken and MYOB. And I was able to learn this in just a couple of weeks' time. So I'm sure, reading the reviews of this system, this software, that I can really learn this in a couple of weeks. And I'm more than willing to put in some extra hours in my own time to get to know this software. So that's the way you do it. If you really don't have it, just show them like, you're a fast learner, you can do it. Here's how quickly you learn it in previous jobs. And that way, you really start to own your experience. You start to feel more confident, and you start to take more risk and to get outside of your box and to really go for it. So make sure you do the exercises and really go through it until you feel absolutely confident and certain and worthy of you getting the pay rises.